Countdown?
Yep.
5, 4,
Four,
3,
three,
2,
two,
1.
one.
You are listening to the Overwatch Rundown, a weekly podcast covering the latest in the esports scene of competitive Overwatch. Today is January 21st, and we are covering the second week of Overwatch League Stage 1. Jax, week 2, Overwatch League, it finished up this week,
Well,
but
your intros now are so light. I remember you used to list off any number of things and games and tournaments that we would be going over, and now you say, "Oh, Overwatch League week 2, stage 1."
well,
And, that's it.
I feel like it would be hard to get into the intro. We're also covering the breakup of all these major Korean and Pacific teams. I don't feel like that fits into the intro. But honestly, Jack, like we could probably spend 5 minutes just talking about that off the top here. Where this week, not even talking about Overwatch League stuff. Let's go ahead and talk about competitive Overwatch esports scene at large.
I mean, we
Kind of
talked
concerning.
about it briefly last week. Well, maybe
Yep.
not briefly when Runner made his comments, the owner manager of former player or coach of Runaways. He talked about the scene being a little shaky, and come to find out, Lepelos, Lunatic High, the most storied franchise in Korea, is done with professional Overwatch.
Yeah, I mean, if
Okay.
they're not the only ones, Jax, I think Flash Wolves, I think, are pulling out. You said, or they?
Lepelos, the premier team, Taiwan Taipei, they
Yep.
represented their country in the Overwatch World Cup. They're also done. I'm looking here at some of the statements that have been made. Many members of the Korean scene have expressed doubts over the financial viability of investing in contenders' countries divisions.
Yep.
Players. This is from the Over.gg article. Players are also reportedly reluctant to sign contenders contracts with non-academy teams due to the required buyouts to join an Overwatch League team after that level. So players don't want to sign on the dotted line because
Contender teams and unproven teams that won't necessarily get you into contenders. Plus, you're not proven to make any money getting into contenders on a non-proven team.
Levelos. I didn't even know this. As per the contenders rulebook, the minimum buyout for an Overwatch League franchise to acquire a contenders player that is not a part of their academy roster is $12,500.
Yeah, which is to a team that's a massive to an amateur team, right? Like that's a massive amount
I
because
mean,
you're usually spending money out period on players, right? Like you don't bring in more money by paying out. It's usually like passion projects, in my opinion. I think.
so this is so Overwatch League teams would have to pay a minimum. So take Congarna, right? Congarna just announced their new roster today. Harblue was on the roster. If Congarna is not signed to an academy team for one of the teams, right? And someone wanted to say they want to sign Harblue, they would have to pay Congarna $12,500 as a result. Now, for these pro teams, that's fine.
Yeah.
But that's the bare minimum, Lepelos. These players, if they sign contracts with these individual organizations, it'd probably be more than 12,500 buyout because the team, they know this is how they're going to get some of their money back, right? So one of the reasons we don't have AKM in the Overwatch League is because of how high his buyout was with Rogue.
Yeah.
And so now you have players who don't want to sign for contenders teams because the signing, they'll be signed into a contract right as the signing period, the mid-season signing period starts for Overwatch League. And it just doesn't, I don't understand this format at all where
if I could just step in,
Yeah.
if players are holding off on getting into contenders teams because of worries about the buyouts being the big barrier to them entering the Overwatch League, I think they need to be rudely awakened into you need to prove yourself again, still at the contenders level, and get yourself on a team sooner than not, right?
I know. No, you're right. There's very few players who this buyout. I say very few, but considering the vastness of people who are available, very few people are actually ready to be signed to an Overwatch League team. I'm
Yeah.
looking now at this post from Take Flash Wolves. They financially, it's not viable for them anymore. Levels. Last year,
Absolutely not.
we
Yeah.
had 2 seasons of OPC. we had seasons 1 and 2. The prize pool for that was what, $200,000, I think, for each stage of that. So the first tournament 200, the second one 200. That has now been reduced to one tournament with a $50,000 prize pool that blows.
Yeah, so it's like a
It's a
lot.
fraction, and it's only once instead of twice a year.
And yeah, so probably like a lot longer practicing, a lot more time, and a lot less value. It's basically a quarter of the value of what it was essentially, and that's assuming you win the big pot.
Oh, sorry,
too.
that was I was mistaken here. The first place for OPC in season 1 was $100,000.
Yeah, yeah,
That's first place. That's more than the entire prize pool now for contenders.
yeah, it's incredible how much it's dropped, and they're not the only team like this, Jax. It's definitely trouble down the ranks. So while everyone's talking in the Reddit, obviously, about Overwatch League and how great that's going, and people signing on to that, and they're really trying to market to like uh, new viewers, and they are seeing some return on that. The concern is in the medium term. Like basically, Jax, after this year, do we have any up and comers that can really make themselves ready to be in the Overwatch League, or are we essentially with the Overwatch League roster now
I think what
for the better part of it, a year or 2 years because of this?
but if that I think we might be stuck with how things are because it's just not financially feasible for these organizations to continue uploads. You take a look at China. We've already lost two of the best teams there. We're now lost. Well, I guess currently they may not have been the best team in Korea, but with their brand, we lost the biggest brand in Korea
Biggest brand, yeah.
of Lunatic High. Speaking of which, Who Are You is now probably available. Since he was he was underage and wasn't able to go to Team Seoul. But I'm looking at this and I think back to this whole path to pro that Blizzard has set up, and the path looks to be rather rocky, man. Like, how are you supposed to make it?
Yeah, definitely troubling times, Jack. So let's go ahead and uh,
In
talk.
Blizzard We Trust, Part 3, Lepolos.
Oh yeah, well, I mean that was Blizzard We Trust Part 3. Jax, you mentioned this last week, still related to Blizzard. Viewer fatigue here. You're a little bit concerned about that, I know.
Lepolos, I can only speak for myself, and I think somebody else, another person who was in the Discord with us, I got tired. Like day 4,
Yep.
yesterday, when I was watching the games, I was like, I'm feeling a little burned out here. It's the same maps. At least some of the compositions are changed, but just going forward, this is only week 2 of 5 in the first stage, Lepolos. And myself, who I consider myself, a passionate fan of professional Overwatch, I'm tired. How about you?
Uh, yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable, Jax. But I guess maybe I'm the devil advocate on this point, which is
Okay.
like if you watch another sport, right? Generally, you're first off, we're watching every single game all the time,
Yeah.
right? Tell me what other sport you do that in
None.
the major league sense, right?
Not
Like,
possible.
it's
No.
not. It's first off, usually it's not possible, right? Like you
Yeah.
can't watch all the baseball games of a full season, right? So you pick and choose what you want. And even of your team, you don't watch all the games of all the season. Obviously, with the way that they're doing it, they're marketing in such a way like pay attention to us all the time. And I'm sorry, you're absolutely not going to have some. Not every game is going to be interesting. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, there's no way you can make like Shanghai Dragons versus Miami Mayhem that interesting.
I
Jackson.
watched it.
I watched it. It was
I watched it because it was. I think I think
was
you said that. Well, I guess we'll get to it in the rundown.
Yeah.
But I was watching to see if Shanghai Dragons have made any improvements and to see how bad the Florida Mayhem might be. If they started dropping maps to Shanghai, then that was something that I wanted to be there to watch. I mean, I think for me personally, I might have to pick and choose what games I watch a little more going forward because otherwise I'm roasted, Lepolos. I'm burned here, man.
Yeah, well, and okay, a lot of people talk about the value of the Apex system and that being better. Yes, there are aspects of the Apex broadcast that I did like more than the current Overwatch League. Say, for instance, the fact that you don't have 4 maps that can end on a draw.
I like the map variety more than anything.
The map variety, yeah. These are all valid complaints that I agree with. But in general, Overwatch League, like versus Apex, there are still bad games in Apex. In fact, most games in the Apex were. Do you remember all the horrible group stage games where we didn't
Yeah.
even bother watching. That's honestly at some point probably our future in Overwatch League 2, where
That
you don't show up to every game.
last season of Apex, we were really picky about what games we invested our time into, just because we have limited amounts of it. Um, I mean, so it's week 2. I guess I have been going a little too hard, so I'm probably gonna back off. I say that I'm probably gonna end up watching everything anyways, but
Yeah, I'll probably watch some of
I
the.
just won't be paying as close attention
exactly.
as I have been doing.
And I think that's fair. And I think the issue here, though, Jax, the issue here that I've said this many times. They've tried to create these regional teams. I'm sorry. Do you feel really attached to your regional team yet? Like maybe I'm left out because I'm in the Pacific Northwest, but I still don't have a team, Jax. Like you asked me, I think 2 weeks ago, what is my team? I was like, Spitfire. I guess.
You have to jump on the Gladiator train here, because I forgot Bishu is he claims Korea and Canada, Lepelos.
Yeah, there you go.
You got Surefour, another Canadian, on the Gladiators. Like this is your team here.
We have Canadian sprinkled
put your
throughout
shield
the league.
up, Lepelos, and rock the purple, man.
Yeah, no, I mean I do like the purple. Gladiators did have a good week. We'll be talking about that very shortly here.
Well, then let me ask you something. Gladiators had a good week. Let's talk about a team had a bad week, Lepelos, or a bad couple of weeks. The Shanghai Dragons. There have been a number of posts, some from the Dragons themselves, trying to explain the situation because some misinformation was put out there into the public domain. But I look at the Dragons and I look at how bad. I'm just to be honest here. I look at how bad they're playing, and I just wanted to ask, does it hurt the Overwatch League brand as a whole to have a team this bad, where everyone, I can't say everyone, because they did take a map off of someone in week 1, but this week, in the second week, you yourself, you were expecting a little improvement. You're expecting Shanghai to take a map in a few of their series, and we go back and look at
series.
it.
I was hoping it was going to be a defining whether they could or could not. Well, Jax, okay, let's cut to the issue, just because we're not going to cover everything full. Let's just mention, since this is off the top, and spoiler alert, all right, that's all said and done. Shanghai Dragons did not even win a map this week, Jax, which is definitely concerning. Some teams are going to be losers for a long time. They're not the only team that doesn't have a win right now. Jax will come to that.
I mean, for me, it's not the lack of winning; it's the lack of even being competitive. I look at the only other team who's 0-4, which is a surprise. It's a shocker to see them down here, but they still put up a fight, Lepelos. I mean, they still, they have. Plus, there's a drama, there's a story surrounding it because everybody expected them to do so good. And I guess we might as well say we're talking about the Dallas Fuel here.
Yeah.
There's positive, even though they're losing, there's positives for Blizzard to take away from Dallas, in that there's drama there, and we don't get into drama. I'm not even talking about off the field drama. I mean, just the drama of them having these poor results is something that Blizzard and the commentators can focus on.
Yeah.
And the analysts. But with Shanghai, Lepelos, what kind of positive? Like, how do you find something positive in Shanghai, right?
Yeah,
if you look at China and that massive region, China, the viewership that they can pull from, Lepelos, how do you get the Chinese fans to back this team?
I mean, it's definitely that goes back to having an issue with their forming and not taking Miraculous Youngsters, a team that probably could have been competitive if they just could pull most of the players. Again, a lot of their players underage, so that was not a possibility. So that aside, like what you do, you pull your best players together, you pull your best coaches together, and you try and form a competitive team. If they're not competitive, I don't know what to say. Like, this is, China did a regional strategy with their selection here, right?
Okay.
Like they pulled all Chinese players, and they're going to say, we're going to play our region. Well, now they have to live with that. And I don't know what's happening on forums in China. I haven't tried to track down any translations from that, because that would be interesting to read. I am assuming that they are probably getting pretty roasted, though, at the moment, for anybody that's a true Overwatch League fan in China and a Shanghai Dragon fan. It's hard to watch, and it's hard to be a fan of a team that starts off so flat-footed. Is it bad for the league? Well, listen, there's always okay. There's often teams in a league that aren't that competitive. The
Right.
question is, how quickly can Shanghai Dragons turn themselves into a competitive team? I said they would. It would be good if they could win a map. Their most likely time in stage one to win a map was going to be against Miami Mayhem. They did not pull that off this week, Jax. So unlikely to see them win a single map for the entire first stage. If they do, that's
I
a
mean,
surprise for me, but that's the
they
goal.
took a map last week in the first week, but going forward, you're saying it was against San Francisco. They took Horizon Lunar Colony 1-0 in the first week
Oh
of
yeah, that's
stage
right.
one.
Yeah,
That was going
I'll
that.
still be surprised from this point if they can take another
Okay.
serious map.
So if you're Blizzard, if you're commissioner Nate No Numbers Nanzer Lepelos,
Yeah.
you're not concerned that a team being this bad, just dragging down what you're trying to build here.
I mean, obviously, it hurts your Chinese audience when you're trying to build a global, and that's a shame. But you don't. That's outside of your control, Jax. Right?
Right.
You do what's inside your control. Having a bad team because their management is bad and their players that they have aren't the best. That's outside of your control as a Overwatch League. I guess whatever Nanzer is, founder, commissioner. There we go, commissioner. Yeah, as a commissioner, you can't really say we're gonna make your team good, right? Like that. That's outside of your control. If the guys are not competitive or if they lose their matches,
There's no relegation
yeah,
levels. You're stuck with this team.
exactly. They are stuck with this team until they can get in new players, and even then, there's no chances that they will see any time on game, right away. So it's a long time, I think, before we're going to see any major changes out of the Dragons, like any positive changes come through. Like,
Okay.
they're continuing to not be competitive probably through stage one, probably through most of stage two, and maybe even beyond. So like half a year, Jax, half a year, probably
Levels,
end of
you
season
say
one.
half a year. I say I don't see where this improvement is going to come from.
Time,
The
time
Chinese
and effort.
scene
Time
just
and
I
effort.
mean, Levels, we're gonna take a small look forward, later on where we take a look at the Chinese scene in One Team Story Chapter 4. But you pointed out last week some of the results that we're seeing in not very good. Like the winners of their trial games, right, to go into their individual contender seasons, they're getting smoked here in the games versus the Koreans and some other Chinese teams. Like the future for Chinese Overwatch for on the professional side levels, I don't see any upside. Where's it gonna come from?
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe it's from the
Okay.
lack of development in the other regions, Jax. If they maintain their interest in other regions like North America, Europe, Korea, OPC drop their interest, maybe that evens things out in the long term. So
Okay.
a year to 2 years.
A
But
year, Leplos, it keeps getting longer now. 6 months, now we're at a
well,
year, now we're at 2 years.
we're talking about Chinese scene, Jax, right there. I was talking about Shanghai Dragons,
Okay.
hoping to start to be competitive. And when I say start to be competitive, I'm not talking for like first spot. I mean maybe getting some wins, probably still bottom of the pack. And
Okay.
I said that about 6 months, so probably after season one, before they have that, like something to worry about. But
Sounds like it's gonna
that's
be
just my estimate.
a rough period for the Shanghai Dragons fans in Leplos.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, I guess we might as well from there go into the full rundown. We had a lot of had a lot of games this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, listen, every week, Jack's 12 games, right? So 24 hours worth of action, pretty much. So yeah, always gonna have a lot.
I need to scroll up in Discord to take a look at our predictions while you start us on the rundown of day one of week two.
Yeah, day one, week two, we started off with San Francisco Shock taking on Philadelphia Fusion Jacks. This one I know is brings up one of the points that you like to discuss. But let's go through the score rundown here. San Francisco Shock actually started off having some trouble getting to the second point, I believe, of Dorado here. But it was the Fusion that couldn't even make the A point, allowing San Francisco Shock to take the first map. Temple of Anubis, different story. Fusion able to hold San Francisco Shock on B point, earning 2-1 victory on that one. Oasis, this one pretty close to Oasis here. 2-1 Philadelphia over San Francisco. And then we had Eichenwald Jacks, and it ended up being a draw. And
I
I,
mean,
I mentioned this because how much you love ending on a draw, Jax.
I hate draws. I think it was Custa who said he would like to see the fourth map and the first map switched. So you have hybrid first and then pure payload on the last, since it's almost impossible to draw a pure payload map because of the distance meters. I for one would like to see that change implemented at the start of stage 2.
Yeah,
It's
I
bad levels
agree with you.
because so many
Yeah,
times I'm into a series and we get this draw and I'm thinking, okay, well, it's a draw. We got another game to come, and then come to find out, no, the series is over. What? Why? This is good. No one wants. You don't want to go from a high of you're enjoying something to this absolute low because, oh, hey, they ended on a draw.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, a draw to be like, oh, a draw is actually a win here for Philadelphia. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so they played for a draw and won. So how exciting is that? And yeah, I agree with you on this point too. It's unfortunate part of the system. Jax, let's go ahead and talk about the next two games because they're going to be quickly done. Seoul Dynasty taking on Florida Mayhem. Seoul thankfully making quick work here. They won every map: 2-1 Dorado, 2-1 Colony, 2-0 Oasis, 3-2 Eichenwald. Mayhem, they tried their best, Jax, but they honestly just could not
No,
measure up.
no surprise there at all. All to be expected. And in the third map of day one of week 2, Lepelos, we had the Houston Outlaws versus the Shanghai Dragons. As we already talked about, Shanghai lost that, and they failed to take any maps again. But it was 3-0 Junkertown, 2-1 Horizon Lunar Colony, 2-0 Oasis, and 3-1 Numbani. All of these games went as we picked. You and I both picked the Fusion, the Dynasty, and the Outlaws to win their games. And we're on into day 2 of week 2.
Jax, this is where things varied up for our predictions a little bit. I believe we both had the Fuel
Yes, we did.
against Houston.
I mean, the Fuel in week 1, Lepelos, they started out against Seoul. That one could go either way. It went in the way of Seoul. And their second game was against the Los Angeles Valiant. I think we both picked them to win that one. And we were a bit surprised to see that the Valiant beat them 3-0. That was another series, by the way, Lepelos, that had a draw in it. It wasn't even the last game. It was one of the earlier games. So, 3-0 to the Valiant there. So Dallas coming into this, they need a win, right? No one really expected them to start out 0-2, the former Envy team, now the Dallas Fuel, and they come into this facing Houston Outlaws, interstate rivalry, Texas. You have Houston versus Dallas, right? Big game.
Yeah, and let's also be honest. Some of the players don't like each other on those two teams. It seems like a little bit.
Oh
Let's
my.
let's not get into the drama
Okay.
of that, but that's like the
Okay.
storyline. So they're actually trying to build this rivalry. It seems to be working. Jax, Dallas struggling, couldn't even make the A point on Junkertown to start. That is very concerning for Dallas Fuels, but it's not just that.
Lepelos. Let me just stop you for a second. We're not going to into full coverage here. I just want to point out that for week 1, Dallas took Junkertown off of Seoul.
Yeah.
In week 2, you're telling me they can't even capture the first point against Houston?
Listen, they had composition changes about who was running on this map, and
Right.
I think that was a mistake to do, honestly.
Okay.
It definitely didn't show like they were running their A game right off the gate here for Dallas, and maybe this is Coach Kaikai having some issues, Jax. I don't know. Somebody ring him up on on the Twitter, but they have some thinking to do. Everybody's being circle jerking around Dallas saying, like they're so unpredictable. You don't know what they're going to do. Jax, I think they don't know what they're going to do either, and it's starting to show. Horizon Lunar Colony 2-1 Houston. More troubles for Dallas. Oasis 2-0. You're not winning control maps, Jax. What have I been saying about control maps? And
So yeah, we've been saying this all along.
concerned here that Dallas didn't win the control map here against Houston. And then to
This
finish
is
it
the
off,
third game. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, well, to finish it off, fourth map, Houston again takes it 2-1 on Eichenwald. Jackson didn't manage to push that bridge.
We got this wrong. We both picked the Dallas Fuel to win here, Lepelos. Just to touch on that point you were saying about control maps. This is the third game in a row now where Dallas has failed to take a single map on control.
Yeah, and that.
33 games.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying we often talk about you can't seed a game mode, and it comes into play if you get into a fits at tiebreaker, which we had a couple of games do this week. And if you can't play on control, then you're just in trouble. And it's just shocking because control, at the very least, you expect your team to be able to kill, right? To be able to put together a string of kills to capture a point and hold it and take a map on it. And for Dallas to be 0 for 6 it's just amazing. When you look at
Yeah,
the level of talent that they have there, Lepolos. Um, Coach Kaka has his work cut out for him. I
absolutely, and it's very concerning at this point that they hadn't won one of these control point because Jackson, the way I talk about it is it's more about the basics of your team calling, communication, and your engaged timings
I don't know
on
if it was
control
this
point.
game or the other
Well,
game that the Fuels played this week, Levels, but we
it was
had
this one.
a brief video. The Overwatch League production crew showed us, and we were listening to the comms, and everybody's like, "Wow, this doesn't sound good," and
Yeah, and that was actually I'm pretty sure it was from this Houston match where they pulled it from on their Horizon Lunar Colony attack there where things just fell apart really briefly. We only get to see the one example of their comms, Jack, so it's probably a bit unfair for us to
I
do
mean,
that. But they've admitted themselves that they're having problems with figuring out who the
just
shot caller
briefly,
are.
I want to make note of a comment we have here in chat on twitch.tv/Lepolos. It says Fuel is burnt out. I mean, you people say that Fuel might be burnt out, Lepolos. What have they been doing? There was
Jack's
nothing. We had Overwatch World Cup into a month off for preseason. They played 2 games where they messed around. Let's be honest, they messed around. They won their games, but they messed around into another month off into Overwatch League. What's there to be burnt out about, Lepolos?
maybe I think they.
This is their
I'm not sure
third
if they're
real
burned
game
out.
in 2 months.
I think they walked in with a larger sense of confidence and they've actually been
Okay.
able to perform at, right? And I think
Okay.
preseason led them to believe that too with their performance there. Maybe that wasn't messing around, Jax. We said it was messing around. It looked like they were messing around. Maybe that was
Right now, I don't
their
know.
serious game face.
Okay.
And if that was their serious game face in the preseason, then we definitely overestimated them here.
All right, Lepos, let's
Because
go to the next game of week 2, day 2. Huge game here now, considering the results in the first week. New York Excelsior versus Los Angeles Valiant. I believe you and I both picked the Excelsior to take this, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, I believe that's
And
correct
yes, we
here.
did.
And I mean,
Oh,
Jackson.
wait a minute. No, Lepolos, I am mistaken. I'm looking here in the chat right
Oh,
now.
you've
Let's scroll up in Discord. Jax equals Valiant. Lepolos equals New York XL. So
Jax,
Lepolos picked the XL. I picked the Valiant.
you got
I'm
that
an LA guy.
hometown. Yeah, I knew you were gonna have that hometown rose tinted glasses here for the
I'm
Valiant.
a Gladiator fan though. It's not purple. It's not purple.
Don't worry, man. I'll keep it honest. Whenever I get a Vancouver team up here, Jax, you can tell me. You can keep it honest on those ones. But
Okay.
until then, at least I can be serious here. New York Excelsior, I think, had the edge, and they proved it. Valiant, good game from the Valiant. Later on, the start though not so great, Jax. Let's talk about that. 3-1 Junkertown, New York Excelsior, 1-0 Lunar Colony. You're not feeling good right there if you're the Valiant.
No.
You got shut out on Lunar Colony. I'm sorry. That is never a good feeling to have happen to you.
That 8 point is so hard to hold on Lunar Colony.
Absolutely.
From their third map, Leplos, we have the West finally taking a control map off of the Koreans. 2-1 Oasis. They lost. That's fine. They at least took a map. You gotta start somewhere. You gotta start. You gotta look for the silver lining here, right? So
Exactly.
they
So
made it
I
back.
actually agree with you because it was a pretty close Oasis overall, and it is
Yes.
good. I mean, again, the pivot map will always be to me right now in this current setup. This control point in the third map. Sort of whatever you want to call it, a litmus test, I guess they might say in some cases. But it tells you if you're competing and can close out maps against your opponent, even if you're not winning overall, or even if you've had bad other maps. If you're at least able to do something on these control center maps or control point maps,
Leplos, I gotta ask you then, how do we shut down Pine on control?
I mean,
Pine goes crazy. He comes in for this one game mode. He kills everybody. And it's like he dabs, and then he's like, "I'm out."
I mean that is a good question. I mean, maybe. I mean, obviously, you either have to focus him or destroy everything around him, because I don't think Excelsior are infallible when it comes to their control center play. He definitely has been having good games on the McCree, but I'm sorry, McCree's not meta, and there's a reason why he's not meta. You dive him,
We
and
saw
you destroy
a
him.
decent amount of McCree. I mean, compared to Bastion or May. I think we did see some May this week though.
Yeah,
No Symmetra. Again, no Symmetra this week. It did see some Torb Jordan Lepelos. But
not as
the
much as
last
in week
map
one.
of New York Excelsior versus Los Angeles Valiant, which didn't matter Lepelos. The series was over.
Series was
When
over.
the Excelsior took the third map, which I also don't like, 3-0, was of course, 3-3 draw. So each team gets, what, half a point? Is that how that works?
I mean, no team gets a map point is how they
Okay.
give out the draws. I mean, a very questionable point structure still, in my opinion, Jax. But whatever. Let's move on, though. New York Excelsior taking this one over Valiant. I was right. You were wrong. That's okay.
I tried, man.
You
I'm
have a chance for
trying.
redemption.
Like, they're not helping me none.
I believe, though, I believe you went against your boys in the Gladiators for this next match with
Lepelos,
the Gladiators
shields up.
versus
I'm still waiting for my
versus
purple
Fusion.
shield emote on the Discord. Lepelos people, please tweet at Lepelos to get me this shields up emote for the
Is that
Discord.
something I can do? I don't know. We'll
I
look
think
into
so.
it.
I guess we'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, I'll
But
look into it.
I think we can say, Lepelos, this game between Philadelphia and Los Angeles was our first feature game of the week. Coming into this, like, we did not have this on our list of recommended games for people to watch. This game was not there. But here we are at the end of day 2. We're thinking, what are we gonna watch? Like, day 1 was really bad. Day 2, nothing really competitive that we could focus on for the podcast. And then
Just our disappointment with Dallas
yeah.
at that point, right? Like that was
exactly.
up until this game, and this game was a really, really, really interesting game. It turned out.
And it didn't even start out that way. It started out on Junkertown, like so many of these games do, because of the limited map pool. But Junkertown, we started with the Philadelphia Fusion on the attack, and
they didn't even make it all the way, Jax. They didn't even make it all the way to the third. Gladiators put up a pretty decent defense at the final third. I think Philly here didn't have the closing off. And listen, because I said this was a good game here, maybe this was the start of signs that Fusion were having a bit of an issue with Gladiators, that they couldn't close out. They didn't have that killer instinct. But that's okay, Jax.
They started well on the first point where they ran over the Gladiator defense. Second phase, the Gladiators bought a lot of time. They started with 4 minutes and 17 seconds to push the second. They didn't get it until overtime, which left them 90 seconds to push the final distance Lepelos. And here's the deal. If this had been played with the Mercy changes, where the Valkyrie only has one revive, or you don't get back-to-back revives, they probably don't win it. The Gladiators held here off the back of Big Goose and his Mercy play. When I say his Mercy play, I mean he got 2 key revives up at a critical moment, and the Fusion were in no position to deal with it. Once that is not there, a
lot of this is going to change with those changes.
I don't want to see a hero remove Lepelos, but Mercy's ability to just undo kills is so rough, because I look back at my notes here and I have Carpe, who one-clipped Asher for 99% of his health at a key moment, right? And I look at Shaz, who I'm kind of critical of because he's a great fragger. Shaz, incredible damage on Zen, but at the end of the second fight in overtime for that second point, he had Transcendence. For the entire 90-second period of the third phase, he had Transcendence. He just sat on it, Lepelos. And it's something that I want to get into in the very next map, but I need to see more than just damage. I need to see, can you use your ultimates at the right time? Thankfully, Big Goose was there. We go on the Gladiator attack. Basically, cap out the map. You take the first one. They don't cap out the map.
Jax, they don't even make second there. They had trouble in the second phase. I guess there's been probably a lot of focus. Honestly, I don't know, but I'm guessing there's been a lot of team focus on the second phase of Junkertown, and I think it's paying off on the defenses a lot more. Like, Gladiators' attack was sort of weak. So, while I want to say defenses have been practicing it, I think Gladiators didn't really manage to come together to provide a cohesive second phase attack.
You couldn't have said it any better than what you just said, because I have here in my notes, the Gladiator attack was anemic. I have never seen such poke like I did on the first point here between the Gladiators and the Fusion. Like, they were testing defenses until they finally found a crack and they made it in. Asher, he popped off on Widow, got a headshot on the Shadowburn, then Carpe. Shadowburn was revived because Mercy, and he killed Shadowburn again. With 3 minutes and 5 seconds, left in the time bank for the second point, Lepelos, Asher finally drops the Widow for the Tracer, but they got nothing from it. I remix doing his best Dayfly impersonation with the constant respawning Lepelos.
Yeah,
There's no coordination between him and Hydration on the dive, and when you don't have dive and your Tracer, you know, isn't doing anything, and Carpe, who just sat back there on Widow, defensive Widow Lepelos, and throughout first, throughout second, like, hi, Carpe, shooting heads, don't mind me. They don't even get second point. First map to Junkertown goes to Philadelphia Fusion. We're on the Temple of Anubis.
yeah. Temple of Anubis, Jax ends up being. It didn't go too long, but it did get into a second round. Jax, unfortunately, Gladiators not getting enough on their attack is the same story that we're having here on Anubis. They like switching their compositions up for that B point attack, able to pull off the OT capture of B point, I believe, Jax.
Lepelos, the Philadelphia Fusion attack wasn't the greatest, right?
No,
They
it
had
was not.
6 minutes and 26 seconds to push the second point. The thing that gets me is Shaz. I was critical about his transcendences earlier, and then I'm saying am I too critical? Because I had to go back and look at it twice. Shaz used transcendence with 2 minutes and 50 seconds left on the clock. Okay, at 2 minutes and 20 seconds left, Lepelos, he was already back at 82% to transcendence, and before the next fight had even started, less than a minute later, he had transcendence up again.
Yeah, no, I mean
This is Zenyatta Lepelos.
Shaz definitely being a big part of the Gladiators when they're doing well. I think he's going to get more attention brought on him, and then that might get him shut down.
I mean, Lepelos. The reason I'm critical of it, though, as well as he did building it up in the final fight, what happened? All his team died. Bishu, the last, healthy member who could do anything on the cap, is demeched. Once Bishu is demeched, then he uses Transcendence. It's too late. Your diva is out of suit. What is the point? So he uses Transcendence. It runs out. He dies. Fusion cap, and they have 1 minute and 6 seconds left in the cap.
Yeah, and that's rough. I mean, 6 seconds is can be the difference, right? Like of a second attack if you capture an OT and the team has less than a minute. It's the small things like this that add up, Jackson. I think that's a good point. Fusion with that minute 06, able to capture out the third that they need on that 8 point in order to take Temple of Anubis 3-2.
You know what happened there, Lepelos?
Go ahead.
Carpe stood up there and sniped all of the Gladiator players, and then they won the game.
Yeah,
They have yet to deal with Carpe's Widowmaker. This is the second map in a row now, where they have no counter to Widow.
So that brings us to Ilios, where we know.
If you get on ruins, what do? You can't stop Widow.
Well, Jack. So, how do you feel they dealt with the Widowmaker there on ruins? Let's just talk about that round.
I mean, it was on well. We come out with 2-2-2 Pharmacy Tracer for both sides.
Hydration, the sort of difference maker there. He actually showed up a bit better on Farah here coming through. They managed to take that one. I think that moves us into ruins next.
It was well lighthoused in ruins.
Sorry, yeah.
But the reason, I mean, on well, it was one Shadow, like previously in the previous week, Shadowburn really impressed us with his fair play on Oasis against the Houston Outlaws and fighting Jake. And here, Hydration, I think Shadowburn and Hydration somewhat canceled each other out, and it was Asher who finally who was finally stepping up in that Tracer position. He was all over the place on Tracer with his pulse bombs, with his accuracy, and Carpe was the one actually being outplayed. So that was, a really good first map for the Gladiators. The second map, though, Lepelos, the Lighthouse, goes to the Fusion. We're still running 2-2-2 Pharmacy Tracer for both sides. And I had here in my notes, I want to ask you, are you as disgusted as I am to see Shaz and Boombox both playing Mercy? You have such incredible DPSers, who play support Lepelos, and they're running around with a little beam coming out of their stab, healing and reviving people.
Yeah, I think it's definitely disappointing. I think there's a lot missing in the league, honestly, from the pro level when Mercy is the best hero, because you're essentially taking out what could be a very interesting support meta and basically giving somebody like a lower skill.
I mean, Lepelos, he had sub 1 minute transcendence in the previous round, and now he's running around healing. But it doesn't matter.
I mean, you don't even scale up with your value as a Mercy player, right? Yeah. Like a great Mercy player just doesn't die. That's like what you do if you're a good Mercy player. It's not about like being able to shoot or getting the heals just in time. Most people, competent Mercy players can do that. The difference that turns a good Mercy player or a competent Mercy player into quote unquote a great Mercy player are two things like alt, knowing when to use your alt, and the second thing is not dying. So
Right. Second map though, Fusion Leplos, they put it together, 199 close map, but Philadelphia tied it up 1-1. Going to the decider. If Fusion win it, series over. If Gladiators win it, they extend. We're on the ruins. It's Widowmaker time. I've already talked about the Gladiators being unable to shut down Carpe Leplos. We come out with a 2/2/2 Tracer Widow for the Philadelphia Fusion. Shadowburn Tracer. We've not seen very much of this before from the Gladiators. We have 3/1/2 Widow with Asher on the Widowmaker, Hydration flexing onto the Roadhog Leplos. The map starts out, Carpe, boom, headshot on Asher. He's down very first thing.
yeah, next fight again, it's another Widowmaker Carpe
I mean,
getting Asher again. It's not a good
here's the
start.
thing. The good start is that he's killing Asher. The bad start is the other three tanks that the Gladiators are running Leplos.
Yes.
The Fusion are not dealing with it at all. We have not. I mean, we've seen some triple tank. We're gonna see some quad tank later on, but the thing for me is, okay, Carpe, you're winning the Widowmaker fight, but you haven't taken the point yet. You haven't gotten rid of these three tanks and there to support. So much so, Lepelos, that the Ruins goes to the Gladiators 100-0,
Yeah.
even though I feel Carpe was the better of the two snipers. You have Shadowburn on this Tracer who's not really doing anything. I mean, he's probably an okay pro Tracer, but when we're talking pro Tracers, and at least here in the Overwatch League, we're talking, I want to see tier 1 Tracers, and Shadowburn is not it. It's just not his thing. It's
So
not
I
his
have a
hero.
question for you here. If they had a second Tracer here for Shadowburn instead of Shadowburn on Tracer here, do you think
I
they
mean,
would have won this round? Like
the
ignore
prob-
everything else. If Carpe quote unquote could do both, right? Like you had a Carpe level Widowmaker and a Carpe level Tracer here, do you think they would have won this round?
This round, yes. The problem though is you need
Usually less than
Shadowburn
that,
for the
huh?
other two stages though.
Oh,
You
I
need
agree.
his
I
Pharah,
agree. I agree.
you need his Genji, but I was waiting for them to finally flex off and try to do something to deal with this triple tank setup. But they just sat on 3-1, 2/2 Widow Tracer the whole time. I think, well, okay, you just gave them a map, but perhaps they felt comfortable with how things were, because now it's 2-1. They're still on match point and they're going into Numbani.
Yeah, and
With the Fusion going on the attack first. Surefour is back in now, and Asher takes the seat Leplos. I think this is one of the first few. This time, we normally Asher is the mainstay, and they flex out between Surefour and Hydration. But Numbani is a very Pharah friendly map. Is very Genji friendly. Roadhog at times on the map has his places as well. So there's no surprise that they have Hydration here. The thing that I was looking at is Surefour being in for the hit scan, right? So he's playing Soldier when we've had Asher play Widowmaker before. We've seen him play some McCree. So perhaps, when it comes to hero pools, or specifically this hero of Soldier, Surefour is the better of the two. I'm not sure. But we get the 2/2/2 pharmacy defense, which is a little strange, versus the 2/2/2 Genji Tracer attack of the Philadelphia Fusion.
yeah, and well, I mean, they managed to get the first hold, but Gladiator's not able to hold out throughout that 8 point capture. Did get like about 2 minutes 30 off the timer
Yep.
there, Jax, which that's a good 8 point hold.
It is.
Bought you more time than the Torbjorn might. I thought you might appreciate that one, Jax. They do pretty well in the B section too, actually. Gladiators,
Yep, it left them with about 2 minutes and 40 seconds to push the final distance.
which was hard.
Hydration Leplos flexing off of the Pharah Genji Roadhog we're used to seeing, and going to one of your favorite heroes, I know, the Doomfist.
Yeah, I mean, very
defensive Doomfist. We have not seen much of this.
I mean, did it pay off? Like I sort of did, I guess. But I think the struggle that Fusion had in the third had less to do with Hydration's Doomfist and more to deal with the nature of that 3rd point attack and how difficult it is to close out there, particularly when you had a late 2nd point attack, late point B time.
I was concerned in that Poco threw up a Diva Bomb, got a random 3 kills, right? Random 3 kills for him, early to mid second phase of the final phase. So I'm thinking, okay, they're gonna ride that momentum and just snowball it in. They didn't. Shadowburn getting nothing on the Genji. He got picked by Surefour right before the final fight started, forced his tanks to extend and use their survivability to buy time for him to come back off respawn. Shadowburn comes off respawn with the Dragon Blade that he died with, right? He gets nothing, and they're held there, 2 points and 66.73 meters. So once again, the Gladiators find themselves in a position like they did on the first map levels, which is probably why the Fusion feel comfortable in that we didn't cap it out, but they now have to meet our distance. And going off of Junkertown, true, completely different maps, right? But they have to feel comfortable in the fact that they have handled the Gladiators pretty well so far. I know you're a Doomfist fan, Lepelos, but this is where I start to question what the Fusion have planned, what their coaches had planned, because I'm looking at a 2-2-2 Doomfist, Genji, and a Doomfist defense from the Philadelphia Fusion, and the Gladiators come out with 2-2-2 Pharmacy Soldier. Knowing what you know of the Los Angeles Gladiators, you had this was a very high chance
that
this composition was going to come out.
You
Hydration, as we talked about,
preparation,
Pharah, Genji, right?
Preparation, Jax. This is either is a lack of preparation on the side of their analyst and coach on the side of Philadelphia Fusion here, or it was poor execution of what their coaches told them, or they had a read, like maybe they're like mind game themselves out of it. I don't care what it is. You go with what should have been the read here on LA Gladiators. Fusion coaching staff should have told them, whatever you do, first defense, go with something with a hit scan because you know you're going to have a Pharah, or go counter Pharah. You know hydration is in. You know this should be the read that you have. And they didn't. It was a horrible selection. And it ends up being a minute or so on that 8-point capture, minute 05, I believe, or something like that. Listen, I know 8 points fall quickly, but you either go to your B point composition off your A point, like in preparation for that quick fall. You don't go to this Doomfist combo. This was a waste of time.
Carpe went from Doomfist, and after the first cap, they had 5 minutes and 20 seconds. The Gladiators did to push the second point. Carpe drops Doomfist for Tracer. Hydration is still floating around on this Pharah up here, and you're running Tracer Genji against him? You're just going to ignore him after what he did on the first point? They have no counter, Lepelos. Big Goose, whose revive helped them on Junkertown defense, again helps them to get the second point cap because Shaz died, Hydration died. Big Goose comes in with the Valkyrie, revives Hydration, who farms from the air because they have no counter for him, and they have 5 minutes, Lepelos, to push the distance of 66.73 meters. That's compared to the 2 minutes and 40 seconds that the Fusion had to go through the third phase, 2:40 to 5 minutes, Lepelos.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's almost twice the time.
I think this again comes down to lack of preparation. In fact, this whole map, I mean,
Lepelos,
they have a lot more time.
Hydration.
Let's cut through this so we can talk about it.
Everyone knows he's gonna play this.
Yeah, he does switch to the Genji in the third. They do take a couple more fights before they finally push through and get the distance, but the momentum was all their way in those fights.
Lepelos, 3 minutes and 35 seconds in the time bank when they cap out the distance.
It was definitely a beating, and I think it all stemmed from the defense not having proper selection off the start, and that led to a cascading series of failures in their defense, and no real answer for that. And I think if Philly's got to review anything this week, it's this map and it's what they did here, and not just from what happened to them in this situation, but the larger picture of, listen, we need to get a better read on our opponents and have a overarching strategy for a couple of conditions here that you guys should know. You're going up against Gladiators with Hydration in the lineup.
Defensive Doomfist that he brought out was a bit of a surprise, but outside of that, when I look at the potential compositions that the Gladiators could run on Numbani, it's very few, right? Like I'm not. You don't even have to be a pro analyst or a pro coach, Lepelos. You just have to look at what they play, and certain things are just obvious to me. What wasn't obvious to me was when we go into the tiebreaker, Lijiang Tower, Lepelos. We started on the Garden phase, but there were some substitutions. We see a triple DPS lineup from the Los Angeles Gladiators. We've got Hydration, Asher, and Surefour. Bishu was sent to the bench, and we're still left with the same 2-2-2 from the Philadelphia Fusion. This here is something I think the Fusion might not have been ready for. We have not seen much triple DPS in the current meta in Overwatch League compared to what, a couple of months ago where we saw triple DPS everywhere.
Yeah, and you don't expect the Widowmaker of Surefour to come out and clock your Lucio off the start on Garden Phase either, right? Like, and as soon as that happens, Jax, like the Shadowburn's Pharah goes
Yeah.
down from the sky to Genji. We have Carpe after Surefour gets another pick, this time on Boombox on Mercy. Carpe switching to the Widowmaker, saying like I can do that better, and Jax he definitely did it better, and that ended up allowing Fusion to get the point back for a bit here. But you're right. I don't think Fusion were ready for what this lineup had to offer, nor were they ready for the work by iRemix and Surefour did here on Winston and Modog respectively.
35% when Carpe finally decided to go Widowmaker himself, which led to them flipping the point at 69%, which is a pretty decent build-up control capture for the Fusion. At 50% for the Philadelphia Fusion, the Gladiators make their own switch to a 2-2-2 Genji Tracer with Surefour on the Roadhog. Carpe at that point drops his Widowmaker for Tracer. The previous synergy that was lacking between iRemix and Hydration on the first point of Junkertown has now been fixed, Lepelos. 75% for the Fusion. They get the dive onto both supports for Philadelphia who go down. The Gladiators end up flipping it 14% later at 89%. Take the first map 100 to 89. The fluidity that we're seeing now from the Gladiators and the lack of preparation, which I'm not even sure Philly could, like, depending on what kind of scrim information they had, like, I don't think the Fusion could have prepared for this lineup. I know I was surprised to see it. I know
I was
me, you, and another viewer, we're all watching this. We're like, oh my goodness, is this really happening? From there, we go into the control center, Lepelos. It's match point for the Gladiators now for the potential reverse sweep. The Fusion, though, we talk about triple DPS. The Fusion are now running triple tank. 3-1-2 McCree, Shadowburn on the Zarya, Carpe playing the McCree. We have a 2-2-2 from the Gladiators with Asher on McCree, Hydration on Junkrat, Surefour on the Zarya, and let's see how it plays out.
Well, I mean, it starts off with Fusion getting the early kills here, in some early point percentage, actually getting their value up on the board. Yeah. Unfortunately, Jax, for them, that was about it for the round, as managed to come through on a turnaround with Hydration and opening up on a Riptire, I believe. On
Lepelos, how far? I'm sorry, they gotta let some of the gas out of the air out of that tire, Lepelos. He sent that tire so far, and I won't say he gets lucky, but he finds Neptuno, who's lagging around, and boom, Mercy dead.
That's
and
an immediate fight win almost, right?
Yeah, I mean, Lepelos, with the enemy Mercy dead, that's at 75%. So the Fusion had built it up to 75%. I do want to point out that in between the 0 and 75%, Surefour with the questionable Graviton again. I don't want to. We long-time listeners, you know how much we hate this, but we had a Graviton and Shatter come out from Fusion. Surefour in a lost fight where he's dying throws out a Graviton and prays to someone that it will do something. It doesn't. But
another Zarya ult sacrifice to the
I hate
all the other ones that do well.
It's a tangent, but I had to bring it up because I hate it. It drives me insane. That being said, Lepelos, the Riptire kill onto Neptuno's Mercy gives the advantage for the Gladiators. That was at 75%, so it got all the way up to 90% at that point. The second Gravitons come out. Surefour beat Shadowburn to the second Graviton by 40 to 55%, Lepelos.
DPS on Zarya's Jax, you never know what you're going to get.
I mean, you really don't. But from here, the problem at that point is it had been flipped. The Fusion are somewhat nervous. They're rushing around trying to get back to the point, Lepelos. They've made a number of interesting composition changes. I say interesting because now I'm looking at Carpe playing a Genji.
Yep.
Shadowburn is playing Zarya. Fraggy is on Tracer. Fraggy is playing Tracer, trying to blink around and get kills and get back to the point, Lepelos.
That was trying to force it, trying to force it too hard. Jax, I think it was at this point like Fusion feeling the nervousness and that coming through in their play and their selections,
It was mental breakdown levels. I mean,
and that carried on into the final fight. Jax, they didn't even get
it did.
a single kill
Hydration
from
come
there.
back. What did he? Hydration switched off. You know what it came back on? Doomfist again, Leplos, and he's just rocket punch, and you're dead.
Yeah, they're done. Fusion losing out here on Lijiang Tower and managed to get themselves reverse swept. That's right,
First reverse
Gladiators
sweep
took
of the
this one back.
season for my Gladiators.
It was a
man.
very
Shields
awesome
up,
game to watch.
Leplos. Shields up, dude.
Shields up, yeah, that's right. Okay, well, Fusion unfortunately they could have taken this game.
Is this a throw by the Fusion?
Well, you can't get reverse swept and not say it's a throw, right? Like it is a throw to have them on the ropes and then let up enough to then go on to lose. So this was definitely disappointment out of the side of the Fusion, I think. Even though we're still trying to suss out where they stand in the league after they beat Houston last week and San Francisco Shock, it was definitely disappointing to see this happen.
Let me ask you something. I think it was Uber casting this. Uber and Mr. X, and maybe whoever was casting, pointed out that D.Va is not the greatest on Lijiang. We have not seen Poco shine on anything but D.Va.
Yeah.
Have we even seen him play anything but D.Va?
I don't think so.
If you're a Fusion fan, are you concerned by the lack of flex you're seeing in your flex tank here? I mean, I say that, but then I could say the same of Bishu, right? The Gladiators decided to bench Bishu, who is their D.Va main, and run Surefour at the Zarya when they needed it. So, do both these teams have a problem though with a flex tank?
Yeah, there's definitely improvements to those players that they need to have happen for the long-term well-being of those teams. They're not as flexible as you would like, I think, comparative to some.
I mean, Sato would be their flex tank. Apparently, really good levels, but he's suspended for 30 games, I think, and this is only game 3 or 4 for them. I don't know.
But it shows what you're missing when you don't have people like that.
Okay.
Because obviously, Poco very good on these, particularly the hybrid and payload maps.
He's very good at that.
Really, because he has spent the time to figure out the self-destruct, and he's a good D.Va player besides that as well, right? It's not just that.
So
I know that's what we talk about, but he's good beyond that too.
So if the Fusion have D.Va, that means perhaps the Gladiators need to look into another flex tank.
Yeah,
maybe.
absolutely.
We'll see. But for now, bit of an upset here. I think as much as I like the Gladiators and I wear the purple, I had to be honest and say that I think I picked Philly to win it because they impressed me the previous week. And so here, bit of a surprise, but we're on a day 3 Levelos.
Yeah, day 3 starting off with Seoul versus Boston Jax. This one not a surprise, I don't think. Seoul Dynasty just a really, really strong team. Boston still trying to uprise the ranks a little bit, I guess, or something like that. Junkertown 3-2 is Seoul. Horizon Lunar Colony 2-1. Oasis 2-0. Nimbani 3-2, all for Seoul 4-0. Boston Uprising done.
I didn't know. I still don't know at the time. I didn't know where Boston fit into the hierarchy of things. I didn't know how good or how bad Striker was. I'll say Striker is a perfectly fine DPS. It's just his entire team was outclassed by Seoul here. So I'm still not sure where they fit in because so far I'm not sure if anybody can beat Seoul. I guess we'll find out in a couple of weeks when Seoul really starts to get into it because I thought Dallas was going to be somewhat of a test for them to see where Seoul lines up, but as we're seeing, Dallas is not what we expected. So we haven't really seen Seoul play anyone Leplos.
But that said, I mean, Seoul did draw out a map lost a map and drew a map against that Dallas team. So
you're right.
Weaknesses on Seoul I think are still there. In fact, they only won Temple of Anubis 6-5 in that first week too. Right. So while we all talk about Seoul being great, I want to asterisk this and say I think they have their own weaknesses, and it'll be interesting once they go up against London Spitfire, New York Excelsior, and even Houston.
I think Junkertown is still a really big weakness for them. They lost to Dallas on it. Now they did beat the Gladiators 4-3 on that map. They did beat Boston 3-2 on that map, but we'll still see. It hasn't been as clean and dominant as we see from Seoul on other maps.
Jax, let's go ahead and talk about dominance again.
We have to.
Yeah, we're going to move on to discuss Florida
Okay.
4-0ing Shanghai Dragons. We already mentioned off the top that Shanghai did not take a map. Let's go ahead. Had Dorado 2-1, Anubis 2-1, Ilios 2-0, Nimbani 3-2. Jack's only silver lining here that I can think about for Shanghai Dragons is that final map Nimbani. They actually showed some signs of life with Undead coming alive on the McCree a little bit, and their tank play being a little bit improved on that map too,
Yeah.
and how big a difference that actually makes for their team when that comes together. Obviously, still not strong enough to bring it all together, and they're going to struggle with that. But in all the questions we had off the top, the where they have to work is clear. It's particularly on tanks and support, and when they can get that going, then they'll probably have more chances to take maps. But Jax,
It's the synergy. Like tanks and DPS need to figure it out. Like, are you attacking the same thing at the same time? Tanks and support, to try when do we dive, when do we stay back and help protect the back line, because their supports are in all kind of danger all the time. Um, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work that they have to get through. I hope they figure it out. I don't like seeing a team this bad. I think it's bad for the game, but it's only week 2. We just have to get, we have to. There is doom and gloom around them, but we have to give them time. Um, I think Lepelos gave them 6 months to a year before we see improvements, so hopefully people will last that long. But Lepelos, from there, we go into the third map of day 3, week 2. Sorry, series. London Spitfire versus the Dallas Fuel.
so this one we both had actually picked Spitfires to win. Jax, Junkertown, Dallas again not able to close it out on their attack, allowed the fairly decent time by, or allowed the London Spitfires 3-2 win over them on that map. Not a good start. Also, not good start. Dallas getting shut out on Horizon Lunar Colony. Already in a bad mindset at that point, Jax. You're down 2-0. Control point are pivot maps. Big surprise, Jax. I've been harping on this the last couple of weeks. Control point map Oasis 2-0 Dallas Fuel. Listen, I know they've lost and they end up losing to Bonnie 4-3 here to Spitfire and lose the match 3-1. Oasis, though,
That's a good.
they showed that they can be competitive even against these really, really strong teams.
That's a big one. I mean,
Huge. I don't want to say it's like, oh, they're great. I'm just saying we've seen. I've been saying these control center maps tell you if you're improving on your communication, your timing, and your coordination. The fact that Fuel were able to take this off of London means potentially two things. Obviously, means Fuel still have it together enough to be able to do that. Potentially, the second thing it means is maybe London actually has a weakness here on those types of maps that we have to pay attention to. But we'll see about that in time. Here though, that's the only good news for the Fuel because they still lose that one 3-1. Jax, they are
Lepelos.
winless this week.
Lepelos. Let's give this a little context though, okay? The Dallas Fuel have lost now to the Seoul Dynasty, ranked number 1. The London Spitfire, ranked number 3. The Houston Outlaws, ranked number 4, and the Los Angeles Valiant, ranked number 5. Lepelos.
Yeah,
So they've played 4 of the top 5 teams in the league right now. No one else has played a schedule this hard. So are we being, and by we I mean you and I, because we're critical of them, but the entire community as a whole, are we being too hard on Dallas considering the teams that they have played?
I think absolutely. In terms of the larger community turning it into a meme, I think that's taken on to its life itself. I think what we're going to see here is the bandwagon jumpers are going to get back. They jumped off. Now they're going to jump back on in about 2 weeks when they win their next games, which are against San Francisco Shock, Boston next week, and then after that it's Philadelphia Fusion in New York Excelsior. Okay, so if they win next 2 games next week, you'll have some people going on. If they've warmed up enough to take on Fusion and then the Excelsior, then they've earned their spot to be back in the middle of the pack.
We'll give our preview picks on it in a bit, but since we're here, let me just ask you this: if they lose to San Francisco,
They're
how
done for
concerned are
though.
you if you're a Dallas Fuel fan, Lepelos?
I'm very concerned. I think they might be struggling to try and even make Well,
Playoffs,
they
Lepolos.
won't make stage 1 playoffs. Period.
Lepolos, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's day 2 done, Lepolos. We're into day 3. Wow, we are way behind time. But
Such is the way on our podcast. Don't
oh no,
worry
we're
about
on day
that.
4. That was day 3,
That
right?
was day 3. We're on day
Okay,
4, and
okay,
we actually
okay.
have
It's not as bad as
another
I
map
thought, but
here.
it's about to get really bad because Lepolos, day 4, the beginning of day 4, saw our second feature game of the week.
And this is actually one that we had some trouble coming to an agreement on our predictions,
Yeah,
Jax. I had Valiant. You went with Spitfire this time. You didn't have the hometown bug.
Lepolos.
I
Listen.
I had my reasonings, but here we are, Jax. Let's go through it. What happened
Run it
here?
down, Lepolos. I mean,
Okay, we started on Dorado, Jax,
yeah.
and Valiant not starting off well, not able to get that second point. Big concern off the start here. That is not what you want. London, of course, finding it fairly simple to make that distance 2-1. Not looking good for Valiant, Jax. And
Lepolos.
go ahead.
I'm sorry, man. I have to take a quick time out here. The Los Angeles Valiant went on the attack first, and I'm looking at London, right? I'm saying I have picked London to win this series, and they come out with a 2-3-1 Reaper Torbjorn Widow.
Talk about.
Are you trolling me,
I
dude?
think they were. I think they're just playing around with this strategy. Like I don't think this is something that they're going to run seriously against teams that they're going to take more serious.
But Dosen on Torbjorn?
Your favorite, I know. How much time did he buy on A point?
I mean, Lepolos, here's the deal. He got up Molten Core. It didn't matter. They didn't do anything.
Absolutely.
The Valiant had 4 minutes and 15 seconds to push the second point. Here's the deal, Lepolos. Second point, they stop messing around, but Dosen gets on Zen and starts fragging out like all the other Zens. And honestly, at this point, I'm saying to myself, because I remember Mangachu and some other pros saying Zen does too much damage. So I'm going to ask you right now, for a support, does Zen do too much damage, Lepolos? These Zens are getting killed. Jay Jonak from the New York Excelsior, Bedosin here, Unko, Shaz. Lepolos, these Zens are just, they're DPS.
I mean, if there's one thing you want to talk about the problem with Zen, it's the fact that you can right-click headshot people and basically get a free pick a la Widow. In fact, bad Widows I can manage to take out with a Zen too, right? Like, it's a very strong ability. I mean, you counter that with his weaknesses, which are lack of mobility.
There was one point, I think, with about a minute.
Healing.
There was like one point with about a minute and 15 seconds left. The Valiant got the payload really close to capping second. Soon popped off with a monster tracer play. And then Bedosin comes around the corner. Ding, ding. 2 people dead. Completely negates everything that Soon did. And they never recover.
Yeah, I got
Once
both.
the Excelsior dropped the Torbjorn gimmick, the Valiant had nothing for this second point attack. And when the Spitfire go on the attack, Lepolos, I mean, they had 5 minutes and 9 seconds to push a distance of 96 meters.
Easily done. Let's go ahead talk about second map. Jack's Horizon Lunar Colony. This one, again, Valiant, not enough in the tank. I'll put it that way, Jax. And Bedozin, again, really, really strong play throughout.
Lepolos.
Coming alive here on defense.
402 Lepolos.
What's that?
402.
402, yeah.
402 Moira is what we see coming out of Los. I didn't expect it, right? I'm looking. I see that they brought in agilities for Silk Thread, running quad tank, and they run the hell over the Spitfire Lepolos. 7 minutes to push the second, and it kind of stalls out somewhat, and it stalls out a little bit more. The Valiant stalling out Lepolos. If you see a recurring trend here, poor ultimates followed by even worse ultimates from the London Spitfire. And you know how I asked you if they were trolling on the Dorado first point with Torbjorn? Yeah. Now I know they're trolling Lepolos. With 20 seconds left for the Valiant attack, they make a pretty good hold. Bedosin comes out of nowhere with this Transcendence. And I'm like, what's he using Tranquility for? No one was dying. The fight was over. Not only that, I'm seeing a Blizzard being thrown down by Rascal in the middle of the point. I'm saying you have used Blizzard and Transcendence with 20 seconds left, and the fight is over? And you know what happens? The Valiant come back. They're saying, who you fooling with, dude? And they capture the second point overtime. Like, what are they doing? They're trolling. They're throwing here. But then the Spitfire go on the attack.
Yeah, the Spitfire able to make pretty good time jacks overall. Valiant unable to set up a strong A-point defense. Listen, I'm not surprised about the results here, Jax. Let's just go through it really quickly. Um, London just able to get a strong advantage here, getting the 3-2 on Horizon Lunar Colony. I don't want to go too much more into detail like
I
that.
mean, both teams capped it out in overtime. The Valiant on their second
Yeah,
attack, they came out with 402 again. We talk about people running the same thing and how you might not want to run the same composition and the same strategy twice against the Korean teams. It shows here. Birdring, monster 2K Riptire with 15 seconds left, takes out both support for the Valiant. What are four tanks going to do without no support levels on the attack? Absolutely nothing. They're full held. The Spitfire go on their second attack, same thing. They decide to bring out their own 402. We have Junkrat McCree from the Valiant Agilities gets a 2K Riptire, but poor positioning by the Valiant gave up a lot of capture progress along the way, and the beefy tanks just rode them. They rode them all the way through to the second map victory for the Spitfire, and the Valiant Leplos, the Los Angeles team, looking a little shaky here.
yeah, a little concerned.
If I if
Listen,
I'm
Jax,
Coach
let's
Bishop in London, I have serious words with those two players for what they did on that second point defense. That was shockingly bad. But they're on match point.
they are, and they have to go to a control point map. Jax generally not something that you want to go to if you're being
Western
a
team
West team.
versus Koreans on control levels. You already know.
Big surprise though, Jax here. We're on Oasis, and guess what? Valiant started it off
Ilios.
well.
Wait, no. Oh, sorry, my notes are wrong. Oasis, you're right. There we go. We're on
Yeah,
the garden phase.
Garden phase on Oasis, and some good play coming out of the side of Valiant. I mean, I think Rascal was subbed in here if I remember correctly.
Rascal was put in on the previous map,
yeah,
and
but he's continuing to play.
for profit. You know, I talked about his terrible blizzard that he had on Horizon. On Oasis here, Agilities is just kind of outplaying him.
Yeah,
On the
absolutely.
Pharah, soon as waking up, he's like, okay, I'm French. The French can hang with the Koreans. He outplays Birdring, or at least I feel that he does here. And first map level is Garden Valiant 100-0.
Yeah, really strong play coming out of Valiant, and the kind of turnaround you want to see in an up and coming team, really, right? So,
Levels, we go to the university, right? Second map, Spitfire come back with the 402. Valiant 312 Tracer, and both sides running Mora, getting a lot of Mora play now. You know, we have not seen
yeah,
that much of her.
particularly not on control point. On this point in control point, it still seems new. But
This map, University, was close, 100 to 99 for the Valiant, right? So the
yeah,
Valiant take it. But I have to call out a few things here. Agility's fantastic Roadhog play. At one point, Lepelos, the Earth Shatter tries to come down from the Spitfire. He cancels it with the whole hog. So if you're using ultimate and you're interrupted, it's gone. Previously, you might keep a few percentage points, or you might get to keep all of it. Earth Shatter is gone, completely canceled out. Next, towards the end, Lepelos Rascal playing the DPS Zarya. He has the Graviton Surge. They probably know he has it because the fight's been going on. He gets hooked into the middle of the pit.
trying to get that
So
flank.
now what do? He's got Graviton. He uses it, Lepelos. Uses the Graviton underground, but his team wasn't in position to capitalize. He gets 3 or 4 people, but he himself can't add any damage because he's stuck underground there. He can't do anything. Meanwhile, Agility is like, ha, I'm still alive. He gets more whole hog kills, including, I think he headshot the enemy Mora, pulling out hooks. Agility saying, listen, I want my spot. I'm
Yeah,
not surplus to requirements just because we have Silk Thread here. No one is playing hog on the team like me. Valiant take a map level as King of the Hill.
huge play coming out for sure. That was really what they needed coming out of their lineup. And Jackson sort of carries on into Eichenwald, able to make it all the way through Eichenwald, through the London Spitfires' rather lackluster defense there, and particularly the A-point defense.
Soon is smoking hot on Tracer still.
Yes.
Smoking hot play by Soon. At the very end, in the overtime push, Silk Thread, who was in for Agilities, he's like, bruh, I got this. You did your part. Let me do mine. The Junkrat spam was very real from Silk Thread. The the London Spitfire, they stopped messing around. They brought Prophet back in. They said, Rascal, you're benched. They bring back the A team. Here comes Prophet. His Junkrat outplayed by Silk Threads. Boom, they cap it out. So, but here's the deal, London, really good team.
I mean,
Can't really expect the Valiant to hold them, considering the previous payload results of Dorado, right? So Spitfire go on the attack Lepolos, and
they
it
struggled.
doesn't go as well as I thought it would.
Struggled on that A point, Jax. I listen. Sometimes Eichenwald can switch A points really, really quickly.
Yeah,
Here, it wasn't until I think just the start of OT or just before that Spitfire managed to capture that A point. That is concerning if you're a Spitfire fan, because that second point, if you don't have enough time on it, that bridge can be a barrier
it
for
was
you to
an
get through.
overtime cap. The first point was an overtime cap, and it was the only time where Soon was unable to get pressure into the backline. Every other push, Soon got what he wanted against the attackers. He tried to go in, he tried to get the post bomb, miss, he tried to apply pressure, got none of it. The Spitfire counter dove, they got to Uncle in the back, and things kind of fell apart. That being said, what you were just saying, that's a long trip to take from getting the bridge door, from getting the drawbridge up, right, to going all the way down and up and around, and they don't make it, Lepolos.
They
They
don't.
don't make it.
We have a Valiant getting Eichenwald win here, Jax. That means there's a
Lepolos,
game
are we
5.
on reverse sweep
And
number
that's
two?
what I'm dreaming about. I had my pick of the Valiant. They're showing up. I wish they showed up earlier on one of those two other maps. They had a chance on Horizon, Jax. They had a
They
chance.
did. They did.
Okay, but here we are. We're back on control point. Mentioned how important it is to win this map mode. London Spitfire this time saying, okay, they're actually forcing us to play. Let's go ahead and play then. Profit back out. And I think that's one of the difference makers here on Lijiang Tower.
This was 312 Junkrat from, we're on the control center. 312 Junkrat for the Spitfire, 312 Tracer for the Valiant. In this setup here, both teams were running Mora. First cap to the Valiant. I want to get that out of the way. First person to get ultimate was Uncle on the Mora. Fantastic output by Uncle. But no surprise there, though. The problem then becomes Bird Ring's Junkrat versus Soon's Tracer. Tracer does not output the damage against tanks like Junkrat did. Lepolos, constant bombardment from the Junkrat spam. He gets his tire up very quickly. Kaboom. And then once they dislodge the Valiant, the Spitfire settle in, Lepolos. They flipped it at 21%, and the Valiant could not get back in there. Envy. We talked previously, and the casters did as well, about D.Va not being the best for Lijiang, not being the best for Control Center. The Spitfire had a Zarya. The Valiant had a D.Va at 70%, so 70-21 in favor of the Spitfire. Envy finally drops the D.Va to go Zarya. It was too late, Lepolos. The Bird Ring spam had been continuing on the entire time, and come to find out, Lepolos, afterwards, Profit 74% average energy on Zarya that round.
Incredible.
74%.
Incredible
That's
considering
DPS.
there wasn't even a Junkrat out. But
100-21 for the Spitfire first map.
also maybe shows how little they killed him. So
You're
not a
wrong.
good start. And Jax, the trouble continues going into the next.
It's match point. What do you mean trouble, Lepolos? For your boys, the Valiant.
They get wrecked here. The Valiant. Let's be honest. They had chances to win this match, but they lost it. Right, like they lost that round badly.
Lepolos,
They look sort of broken.
is still sniping their heads, and it's 3 days later.
Yeah, it's trouble. It's trouble, Jax. This map not going the way of Valiant. This map, this round, whatever you want to call it. In fact, they lose it here, Jax. They lose everything here in this series. 2-0 on Lijiang Tower, and end result here as Spitfire take this one pretty handedly.
Valiant effort by the Los Angeles Valiant here, Lepolos.
Yeah.
Like Carpe and the Los Angeles. Here's the deal: Los Angeles teams, they need to figure out their counter widow strats, because the Gladiators struggled with it, and here on Lijiang, the Valiant definitely struggled. Lepolos. I mean, Bird Ring at one point, all you saw was just ding, 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 and I'm like, y'all got to do something. When they finally do flip the point, I think it was an overtime flip for the Valiant, right? Bird Ring goes Genji. The Valiant buy a little time, but it comes a critical moment there where Agilities has the Dragon Blade, gets nothing with it, and from there, if you don't get something from your ultimates, you run over. Spitfire DPS won them this tiebreaker map. Birdring in particular did his job, Lepelos. Prophet came back in so soon, wasn't able to get as much as he did previously because Prophet is in now for Rascal, and I think Prophet is better. And the Valiant just came up a little bit short.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ask much more from the Valiant. I know
No, I mean they
it
could
was
have given
close. It
up.
was close.
They could. I mean, Lepelos,
When they looked good,
third map,
they were good.
control. They won a control against a Korean team.
Yeah, they won one control against the current. Obviously there's like when they look good, they were good Jacks. When they were
Yep.
bad, they were really bad though. Let's be
Yep.
honest. Don't go back and watch that Dorado if you're a Valiant fan, because
I
you
mean,
got
if you want
styled
to
on in
watch
the way.
it
But
and you want to apply for an analyst position, you want to break it down, run it down
yeah,
for the Los Angeles for the Valiant coaching staff, then sure, go for that. But if you want to watch your team and you don't want to watch them get beat up, definitely don't watch Dorado because once the Torp Jordan went away and the Spitfire stopped messing around, they got rolled.
yeah.
Speaking of getting rolled, Lepelo, second map of day 4, my goodness, second series of day 4. See my Los Angeles Gladiators hot off their win against the Philadelphia Fusion, going up against the New York Excelsior. They're what, number 2 team in the league, I think, maybe number 3.
Definitely up there.
And they the shields were not up, Lepelos. The shields were they had some dents in it from when they
I
fought the
think
Fusion, and
the way I'd
so
say is you're seeing the cracks in the logo come through here, Jax.
little cracks in the armor, little cracks in the shield.
Yeah,
Lepelos. We've got 1-0 Dorado for the Excelsior, 2-1 Horizon Lunar Colony, 2-0 Oasis, 2-1 Eichenwald. Not the best performance from my boys, but listen, I'm okay because I expected them to lose both games this week. We split them. That is good for me as a Gladiator fan, Lepelos. Sad they lost. Sad they got absolutely rolled here. Was somewhat expected. And we go into the final game of the week, San Francisco Shock versus the Boston Uprising.
yeah. This one ended up being a lot closer than I might have suspected. I think we both picked Boston Uprising here, Jax. It was a back and forth affair. There's no doubt about that. Dorado 3-2 San Francisco Shock, 2-0 Horizon Colony for Boston, then 2-0 Oasis, then 3-1 Eichenwald. Jax. The importance again of control center or control point maps. Lijiang Tower, another close one, but San Francisco Shock edging them out on that 2-1 for the victory in the 3-2 map scoreline. Feels good if you're a Shock fan, but if you're Uprising, it was a close match. You can't ask for it to get any closer.
I mean,
So you should still feel good that you're able to compete. Maybe a couple things you want to touch up if you're a Uprising fan.
this one could have gone either way. I think both these teams are pretty evenly matched, as the scoreline 3-2 shows, with the 2-1 in the deciding tiebreaker map. All these teams levels, I think, on any given day of the week, I'm looking at San Francisco Shock, Fusion, Philadelphia Fusion, Los Angeles Gladiators, Boston Uprising. Those 4 teams right there in that middle to bottom area, I think they're all interchangeable.
Yeah.
I don't think any of these teams. Sorry, I don't think any of these teams has proven themselves to be better than the other ones to be able to move into the second tier, where I'm kind of looking at the Houston Outlaws and Valiant. At the very top, I've got the Koreans. They're
Absolutely.
Seoul, New York, London.
Well,
They-
why don't
they're
we
there.
stop this and start talking about predictions for next week, Jax?
Predictions. Oh, Lepelos. Who we got next week? Ooh, next week not
The
looking good.
first
for some teams.
matchup next week. Okay, so we're gonna go.
Lepelos, are you taking notes in the Discord?
Yeah, I'm starting to. Let's do
Okay.
that. So Shock versus Spitfire. I think this one for me is clear. I think you're gonna agree with me that Spitfire I think should take this one.
Definitely.
Second matchup, we've got Dragons versus.
So that's
This one that's not even contest, right? So
Yeah.
that one is done. But Jax, this one is the interesting one. I
Oh, boy.
want to hear your take on the battle for LA.
Listen. Of course, I'm going to put my shield up, Lepelos. We'll have a more instead of 2 days to smooth out the cracks and fill it in. We're gonna have brand new shields that are going up here, right? The Gladiators are going to, mash the Valiant over the head with the shield, Lepelos. They're gonna run into that lion and just get eaten. So I'm taking the Gladiators here. It's gonna be rough. I would not be surprised if somehow the sneaky cheating Valiant with their mercy, as as their guardian angel, figure out a way to sneak a win. But if everything is equal, I'm taking the Gladiators.
Okay, well, I'm actually going to take the Valiant. They were showing that they compete
Lepelos.
with some of the top tier talent, taking us to Game 5 against the Spitfire. I think they're
Lepelos.
going to feed
Never.
off that and destroy Gladiators pretty soundly in their matchup on day 1. Takes us into day 2 where we had Uprising versus Spitfire. Jax, what's your take on that one?
London.
Yeah, I'm all for London there. Second matchup, maybe a bit of a more interesting one. We
I mean,
have Fusion
looking
taking on Excelsior.
looking at this, I'm taking the Excelsior. I'm wanting the Fusion to step it up. I think I see one of our viewers in chat says they're a Soul fan, but they have the Fusion as their sleeper team. I think the Fusion is a sleeper team. I'm still waiting for them to get fully woke. They're not woke yet, Leplos. As the recent results show, especially when they got put to sleep by my Gladiators. But
Do you think Pine on control
because someone's got to
point
stop Pine.
shut him down?
Maybe Carpe, Mr. 180K apparently Leplos. 180K for Carpe. Maybe he will be the one to stop Pine. Someone's got to put enough dabbing, Leplos, please. No dabbing.
I'm with
But
you
yes,
on this
New York
one. I have
Excelsior.
Excelsior taking this one, which takes us into the final map of the day. Houston versus the Mayhem. And I don't think you're going to be surprised.
I'm still waiting for Florida to show me something. They have not. They haven't shown me anything.
Yeah, and we have Koreans like Ryu Jae-hung really speaking up about the Houston Outlaws and how good of a team they are.
I'm not sold, Lepelos. Dallas is playing rather poor right now, so I still don't know how good or how bad Houston is. I still look at week 1 where Houston lost to the Philadelphia Fusion 3-2. They lost to the New York Excelsior 3-1. So I'm not sold on that team. Not yet. But Lepelos, we're coming into what should be feature game of the week here. Day 3, Seoul Dynasty versus New York Excelsior.
Definitely is going to be on my probably hot to watch.
Who you got, Lepelos?
I'm actually going to go against the Dynasty this week, Jax.
Lepelos.
I'm going to go with a bold prediction on this one because I think New York Excelsior, they've been doing well. Seoul Dynasty, they are good. I'm not going to be surprised if they win.
We've been talking about Pine,
yeah.
But no one has stopped Fleta yet.
No one has stopped Fleta.
Fleta's hitting them heads too, man. Bang, bang.
I'm going to go ahead and point out that Seoul Dynasty has had an easy schedule so far.
Oof.
They have. And
they beat Dallas the very first game, Lepelos.
And they beat Dallas, but guess what? Dallas, the 0-4 Dallas feel managed to take a map and draw a map with Seoul Dynasty.
Actually, let me
if
take
Fuel
a look.
Can do that, then I think NYXL has the potential to win. And I'm going to just hope that with their sort of harder schedule that they're going to be able to leverage that into a full win.
The Seoul versus New York starts on Junkertown. It's a map we have identified as weak for the Seoul Dynasty. That being said, I'm gonna stick with the Dynasty. Ryu Jae-hung, Toby, Fleta, Miro, Zumba. We're gonna get the A team with Munchkin thrown in there. We're not gonna see any of this Zephyr stuff. I still don't know why they hired Zephyr, but that's neither here nor there. I'm going with the Seoul Dynasty, Lepelos.
I think that's
the rest of day 3. We've got Shanghai Dragons versus Philadelphia Fusion. I'm sorry, I still have to go with Philadelphia. Shanghai, it's not been 6 months. And the final game of day 3, Lepelos, the Dallas Fuel versus the San Francisco Shock. It's not as straightforward as you would think. It's not a straightforward win for Dallas, Lepelos.
Yeah,
but do you think they are going to win?
I sort of had a preview for this. I do think they're going to bring it back this week because of their difficult schedule. I think they're going to be working hard to overcome some of the challenges that they face, but they're starting to face easier teams.
They have yet to win King of the Hill.
Yeah, I think they're going to win this match probably 3-1 against the Shock. Not that we're doing map predictions, but that's...
I know I like the 3-1 map line. Dallas. Coach Kakai does have his work cut out for him. He's got a lot of work, period. I will take Dallas as well here. Sooner or later, though, you and we keep picking Dallas and they keep losing. That's going to be a problem.
So how
And
do
for
you?
some reason, Lepolos, day 4, the first game is Dallas again.
Yeah, there's sometimes that they have these head-to-head matchups, like last game of the night before, first game the next day. This one, little time in between. How do you feel about the chances here for the Fuel taking on the
Lepolos, Boston
Uprising?
gets a full day off. Boston, they play on day 2, they don't play on day 3, and then it's unfair advantage here. But I'm taking the Dallas. I'm taking the Dallas Fuel.
I agree with you again on this
Because
one.
one, I'm already striker for me. Striker is the key for Boston. I know someone from London said Dream Casper was the best Western DPS. Whoever that was, I don't remember who. They're lying. No, I shouldn't say that. Not lying. They're sadly mistaken. Striker is the key for Boston. You put him down, you don't really have to worry about Boston. And I think Effect is going to be able to cancel out Striker as then do what Effect normally does and kill everybody. So I'm taking Dallas.
All right, well that takes us into the second game.
Already know
Oh,
my
so
answer
well,
here,
I should say with you, I'm going with Dallas too against Uprising.
Okay.
I think the lack of preparation time will help Dallas not think about whatever happens the day before. No, but in all honesty, I think they'll have the edge on
Okay.
Boston. Game 2, we have Valiant versus Florida Mayhem. Jackson, I'm
Yeah.
just going to say it, Valiant.
Yes.
I imagine the breakdown here, pretty simple for both of us. Mayhem just not having it right now. Won't win this one. Takes us into the final game of the week. Out, we have Gladiators versus Houston. Jax, are you going hometown favorite again?
I rate the Valiant above the Houston Outlaws. So, of course, I take the Gladiators to already pick them to beat the Valiant. They will then go on to beat the Houston Outlaws.
You are playing hometown favorites. I am going with the
Levels,
Houston
this is
Outlaws
you
here.
say hometown favorite. This is my team. And I'm not pulling for the Valiant. I'm not a Valiant guy. I'm a Gladiator guy. Shields up. We will take it. Both wins this week. Both wins.
The big dreams coming out of Jax for
Both
the LA
wins.
Gladiators. I'm trying to keep it real, Jax. The Outlaws, I think, will have the edge on them. I wouldn't be surprised if Gladiators take a map, or even maybe two, make this a 3-2 affair. But I do think, in the overall standpoint, Outlaws will win out over Gladiators. Uh, although that said, weakness being if Houston goes to 5 games and they don't do well on control point, then
Right.
they're in trouble for that 5th game. But
Okay.
I'm picking Houston, Jax. That's our predictions for this week. Why don't we go through the rundown of what else we have going on in the
Do we
wide
have anything
world?
else going on?
I believe there's a couple. Is
I mean, for this week, the rundown is complete for this week. This week, all we
Yeah.
had was the Overwatch League uploads. Previously, I used to be able to go to Brazil. I used to be able to go to the Middle East. I have not been able to go to Middle East
your
in a while.
frequent flyer miles are
South Africa, Lepolos, Africa, nothing. Southeast Asia, nothing. I guess contenders is going on, but like I said a couple weeks ago, I'm not touching contenders until we're down to the playoffs.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a massive,
long ways to go there. But
massive
Lepolos, we
bracket.
can go to China. Overwatch Team Story, Chapter 4, Group Stages. Because we changed our normal broadcasting time, instead of Tuesday, it's on Sunday. Well, of course, it's Sunday right now. The games are tomorrow. So
We don't
we
actually have an
Group B.
update for
No,
you.
there's no update.
but-
But just looking ahead, LGD Gaming, quite right now, I think the best team in China, or left in China, I should say. Lingan Esports, Team Kongdu Pantera, Lepos looking at that one, and Team Laffy.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm Kongdu 3-0 here. LGD Gaming probably 2-1.
Lepolos, okay. I mean, I don't
that's
think
like
you're
the
wrong.
likelihood.
I think
Team
Kongdu
Laffy
and
0-3.
yeah.
Let's be honest. That's what's going to happen in this group. But we'll get the results next week on that one. Yeah,
We'll
short
run it
week
down.
means there's less stuff. So
I mean, Lepolos, we've got Overwatch PIT Championship Season 2, Europe and North America. The North American teams have not been announced yet, but looking at the European teams, got some interesting. I mean, these are contenders teams, Lepolos. I'm looking at Eagle Gaming, the all French lineup, Nico, Crew, Leaf, Nox, Hip, People, Moon, Ents Esports. We've covered them a lot. Dose. I'm seeing a couple of names here on Dose that I know,
Hidan,
or Dose,
Honey.
however you pronounce it. Ube,
Ube.
Hidan, Ben Best, CIS Hope. We have Kenzie, Unfixed, Zhao, Sharik. Those are all known quantities, Lepolos.
Yeah.
Angry Titans, Oni God,
Even
and Oni
Jigsaw
God.
has Vonethil on it, man.
What happened to Von? I can't believe Vonnevill. Everyone rated him so highly for his Lucio play, for his shot calling as well, and he just disappeared after Fnatic. But yeah, he's on Jigsaw, piece of cake. Do they have anybody we know?
Uh,
Krems, I think, is
Krems
familiar to
is a
me.
Poppy Fresh I've seen as well, but
Yeah,
that
Squid, 1 2 3 2 4 Lepelos, Veinless, Evoke.
Evoke. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at oh,
TBA
this is
has Morte and Cruz and
this is what
Tonic
E
and Finzy.
United Reunited. Do we know what their current name is right
I don't
now?
know. I mean they're new United. I don't know. They're because it's
But
not all the same players anymore. But
Morty not playing, he's coaching Lepelos.
oh yeah, he's coaching.
But
But
a
we'd still
number
have
of known.
Cruz and
This is
Tonic,
interesting. And then
Finzy.
you've got those guys, Lepelos, Craggy, Hib, Half a Cool.
Still not making it to
This
LAN,
could
is
be
he?
a good like look, this is a contenders preview here.
It does sort of look like that. I'm pretty sure Happy Cool's still waiting on that LAN experience though.
And I click over here on the North
Okay.
American side of things, Lepelos, and no teams have been announced yet, which is odd because the tournament is supposed to start tomorrow. So sadly, I can't.
If we can't even tell you, are you sure? Oh no, I'm looking
I
at
went to the Twitter. They had
Yeah,
nothing.
never mind.
I can only
That's
check so
disappointing.
many places, Lepelos. Let me see. OverwatchPIT.com. It's loading, and yeah, I got nothing.
We'll find out if they actually had games by
I mean,
next
look,
week's
listen.
podcast.
They
But
have EU. They have EU schedule. There's nothing here about North America. So
I mean,
I don't know.
this is like it's trouble. Like if they're trying to advertise it, I mean, it's hard because like
Yeah.
what can they even schedule games at the same time of Overwatch League? I don't. The answer I think is no, right? So they're looking at what Sunday through Tuesdays
Let me see.
for North American
If I just
viewership.
click one button to get it come back. Why it says January 22 to the 29th. I mean, if they do it in the morning when Overwatch League is not
Yeah, but you're talking about North
broadcasting.
American audience. So you're not going to get like anything. I don't know.
I mean, let me see. So
Like
looking
I
at
know they're a
Lepelos-
smaller tournament, but still.
looking at it right now at the days that they have scheduled, they have games scheduled for 22 January 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, and then the 26th, 27th, 28th, and 29th. So we'll see. Oh, actually, they have times here. So it starts at 1800 CET. What time is that? I don't know.
Oh, CET.
Yeah.
Jeez, I think that's like 5
So
or
it'll
4
be in the
o'clock.
morning when Overwatch League doesn't start till the afternoon/evening.
Okay, well we'll keep our eye on it. I'm not going to say we're going to watch it, Jax. Maybe
I
the
mean,
finals,
I'm gonna
like
watch
maybe,
some.
yeah, some of it, but not as much as we've been watching of Overwatch League. But that's an update on what's coming up, at least that we've been able to find. If you guys know anything, do hit us up. At OW Rundown. You guys can always send us links over that way if you see something you want us to cover.
At OW Rundown for the overall podcast. At Lepelos for this guy right here. Please, Gladiator fans, let him know we want our shields up emote in the Discord. I'm at Jax JAX_Blake.
Now coming at you guys on Sundays, just a reminder, this is our schedule going forward. So again, next Sunday, expect us to be on then. So
Twitch.tv/Lepelos live.
yeah, next week
Join
I
us in
promise I
chat.
won't mess that up.
We have a few viewers. Get involved in the discussion here. Let us know.
Yeah,
Lepelos, am I hearing sirens?
that
Lepelos?
sounds like somebody's having an issue. I mean,
Okay.
better go check that on the fuel to see if it's burning. But all jokes aside, do appreciate you guys coming around and listening. We'll catch you again next week.
Okay, hour and 38 minutes.
All
I'll
the
take
time,
it.
Jax. All the time.
I thought it was over. I waited like I don't know how long.
Patience. Stopping recording, but no.